A little jealous. Your background is super nice, man. Putting
Well,
me
I
to
mean,
shame.
I should get this in my hand. Yeah, I mean, I just started out with a few action figures, Spider-Man ones, because I had heard like little noises about Tobey Maguire maybe coming back, and then I was like, okay, well, the action figures are gonna become super expensive, so I might as well get them now, and I did, and I'm glad I did because now they are rare. So yeah. But I mean, I'm glad that I get the classic background that you have in all of your videos. So thanks for setting up that way.
Yeah, of course, man. We actually just got done doing an interview right before this, so we're on
Really?
back to backs today.
Right on, man. Awesome. And to kick things off, I guess I want to know from you what your first interview was, even if it isn't on your YouTube that you are working on now. Any kind of interview, what was the first one you did, and how did you land it?
It's funny. So this podcast initially it just started as an Instagram, right? So it was really just a way for me to kind of nerd out,
Mm-hmm.
like where I wouldn't do or wouldn't necessarily post on my like personal Instagram. So it was just kind of a way for me to kind of nerd out. Created the Movie Junk Instagram, found that it was available, and it's funny after a few months, and this was during COVID, right? So this was during
Yeah.
COVID and after a few months was able to connect with Sean Kanan, who we know as Mike Barnes from Cobra Kai,
Yeah.
and just connected and then just floated the idea of doing an interview. And I hadn't done any interviews. That was actually the idea of doing interviews kind of started and stemmed there, and got a chance to kind of touch on his journey through Karate Kid 3. Cobra Kai was kind of picking up. I think we were at season 2 at that point,
Yeah.
and I was able to do that session. It was on Instagram Live, and then I
Yeah.
believe since then we've had I think 4 interviews with Sean Kanan. So yeah, it's been a
Yeah.
blast.
That's awesome. And it's so interesting to hear other people's stories of how they got started, especially when it was in the first little bit of COVID there. Everybody kind of had to pivot in their own way. And that's why I wanted to start doing these interviews with my contemporaries and people who are also creators on YouTube and other spaces. And like it's interesting to yeah hear your story, and I want to know because it was a challenge for me how you got into the groove of learning how to get on Zoom, how to send Zoom invites, and how to record it, and all of the technical stuff. How did all of that click for you?
So I got to be honest. I mean, I'm a fan of your podcast, and I just love
I
the
appreciate it.
guests that you've had. You definitely put me to shame with some of the legends that
Oh,
you've had. I mean, Carol Burnett, Ed Asner, and I love your editing as well too. So you put me to shame when it comes to your editing skills. I'm a journeyman compared to you, but yeah, no, definitely. I mean, for me, my first few interviews started on the Instagram Live, and I just found that it was kind of tough to kind of move that over into like a YouTube. Just
hmm
doing them on Zoom was just so much more convenient. You can also have a conversation beforehand before doing the interviews. So we did our first few interviews on Instagram Live. We did our second one with our mutual friend Michael Cavalieri from the Next Karate Kid, and our buddy Ned Randall. And so yeah, after that, I think we jumped onto the Zoom bandwagon and have been doing the interviews there ever since.
I appreciate your comments on all of that. I mean, it's been a journey. The editing is tough, but I do it because I like to make it a kind of production-y style thing. But it's just all been so great, and ultimately, yeah, meeting people like Mike, like yourself, and I so I met you through Mike. I met other people. I met Pop Turnative. Do you know Pop Turnative and PD Beats, right?
Beauty
Yeah, so I
Beats.
met yeah, I met him when there was that whole Outer Banks craze that was going on. And that's how I kind of squirmed into the Zoom meeting interview world. And so that's how I got into that. But I want to talk to you about Cobra Kai and about that because that was the first one that you did, and that's where we have our mutual friend, well, not from Cobra Kai, but Karate Kid, Mike.
Yeah.
And you went on to interview other cast members and at least get shout outs and do stuff with other cast members. So tell me a little bit about how that has been for you.
Yeah, I mean, being a fan of the Karate Kid, right? I mean, I love the first Karate Kid. I mean, I love all the films that have come out, but like we all kind of grew up with that first Karate Kid movie. And when I first found out that they were doing this Cobra Kai series, right? It was on YouTube initially, right? YouTube
Yeah.
Red. I immediately got on the YouTube bandwagon and subscribed, and we were able to watch the early season on YouTube. So when it came to Netflix, right? I had already, had been telling a lot of my family and friends, I was like, guys, this show is awesome. You guys got to start watching it. So I just started off as a fan, and I am a fan, right? And, quickly did, our first interview with Sean. Immediately after, did it with Michael. And Michael's become, a dear friend. He's also a mentor as well, too. We've had him on the channel a few times, and, we keep in contact. And great guy. And I was so fortunate to have been able to connect with him. And because also for us, right, like the next Karate Kid, I feel like we watched that movie more because, growing up, it was on the Disney Channel. So we were
Right.
constantly, I was still am a Disney fan and was able to kind of see that. Obviously, we were introduced to the Julie Pierce character. So that kind of opened the door. And then, quickly after doing, the first few interviews that we did, we're able to get to more of the castmates, like Rick Perez, Susan
Yeah.
Gallagher, Joe Sale as well too. So just to be honest, I'm a fan. Just being able to interact, and I like to kind of hear their journey of how they stumbled into the role, what it's like working on set, and I mean you've seen my interviews. I try to treat them more like a conversation. They're not really specific questions that we ask. It's just kind of more of a convo style interview, and yeah, man, just getting to hear the stories from them firsthand has just been an honor and a privilege. And I can't wait for the next season.
Yeah, and something that they're doing that is not being done by near, I don't think anybody else in Hollywood is releasing more than one season in a year. Like
Yeah.
that's crazy because we actually things are still relevant, whereas, Stranger Things or other shows wait however long they wait to release their next season. So, I mean, what are your predictions? What are you excited to see? And after you tell me that, are you planning to talk with any of the cast members?
Yeah, I mean, where we left off was wild, right? We got Terry Silver kind of flipping the script, on Crease, right? Sending them to jail, and I'm hoping that this is the point because remember that line that he said, "Hey, I can probably wrestle up a few friends from the past," right? So I'm hoping that's the cue for Mike Barnes, maybe Dennis as well too. So I
Yeah.
think that there was that because we all wanted we want to see these legacy characters return, right? But it's got to fit into the story narrative. I mean, that's what because the creators are fans. It's like
Yeah.
imagine if you and me were given this show, right? Like we'd want to put all these characters in them right away, right? But it's got to fit the story narrative. It's got to be able to drive the narrative. So I
Yeah.
think now's the best time. Like if we're going to ever get Mike Barnes, it's got to be now, right?
Yeah.
And also too, just kind of because I ask him every time I bring him on. I always ask him, and obviously he can't give the answer, but he's got in tremendous shape. He's got the haircut down too, so I'm excited to see him return. I also tease Michael Cavalieri that hopefully we can get him in future seasons. So I'm just excited. I'm not really good at predicting. I think this might be probably one of the more dramatic seasons, especially with them going to Mexico too. So I just think that it's going to be a rush, and I hope that we can continue the action and get because also too the characters are getting older, right? They're starting to look older, so I'm sure they're
Mhm.
probably filming a lot of these quick. That way we can get these seasons in before they get too old, and also they're getting popular film roles too. So I want to
Yep.
keep them active.
Yeah. And that's the case with Outer Banks too. All of these Netflix shows that came out, everybody's getting big movie roles now, and it's like it's great to see. And touching on something that I want to. Oh, wait. So I had asked, are you going to be interviewing anybody for the next season? Do you want to? Is there any talk about that or?
Yeah, I mean, we're obviously going to always take any interviews that come up with the Cobra Kai cast. I'm never going to resist that, obviously, right? So don't have anyone that we can officially announce just yet.
Yeah, yeah.
But as soon as obviously I like to get the interviews kind of wrapped, and then we kind of quickly do the promos for them afterwards too. It's usually funner to do them right before the season comes out, and to be honest, it's even funner to do them when the season comes out because you can actually
Hmm.
get more information out of the cat because it's kind of like a secretive game, right? They can't
Yeah.
really share too much, but I just love hearing all the excitement of what went on in the filming. But yeah, I mean, as you know, you've interviewed several castmates as well, too, or several
Hmm.
interviews as well. You can obviously
Hmm.
talk more once the show has actually been released already.
Yeah, absolutely.
You've been doing a lot of events and kind of seeing a lot of actors that I'm just in
Hmm.
love with. But what's that like? Is it harder to do the in person sessions, or is it easier to do stuff like this?
Well, I mean, it's all difficult in their own rights. Doing it on the ground is difficult because I have to have everything on the go and it needs to be ready to go. And there can be no technical difficulties or like minimal technical difficulties. And that's if I'm doing an interview like right on the floor. If I have a little bit of room to work with or set up, then it's a bit easier. But question wise, I mean, it all depends because it depends on how many people you're going to be interviewing that weekend and how much can you know about every single person. So
Yeah,
you just, you have to, it's, uh, it's easier to do it over Zoom if I have a lot of time to do my research and stuff like that, I would say.
yeah,
But yeah, but then again, sometimes it's not because and I'm sure you've experienced an interview where you expect someone to talk a lot and then they just give you 1 or 2 word answers
yeah,
or the opposite. So, but yeah.
yeah,
And I
yeah.
did want to touch on Sopranos. You said that you went to the Sopranos con and you've done a bunch of Sopranos content. That's your ballpark. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I'm kind of like a kid in a candy factory when it comes to Sopranos. I mean, that's my favorite TV show, and being able, I think we're right around 15, a little under 20 of the Sopranos guests that we've had on the show between Sopranos and the Many Saints of Newark. Yeah, man, favorite show. I was actually late. I was kind of like a fun fact. The show came out in '99. I didn't join the Sopranos bandwagon until the end of season 5. So it was
Okay.
like '03, '04 is when I started this. The show wrapped in '07. And so, yeah, man, I started with season 5 and then 6, and then I went backwards 1, 2, 3, 4,
Oh,
5.
no
And then
way.
since then, to be honest, I rewatch Sopranos probably 2 or 3 times a year. I love it. I have to, even when I'm working, I just have it, in the
Yeah.
background playing. And yeah, to be able to interview, several of the guests. The very first guest that we had, I believe it was John Fiore. He played Gigi on the show. And we started with him, and we went to Robert Finaro. We've interviewed. We just had Lilo Brancato not too long ago.
Hmm.
From the Bronx Tale as well too. So I'm just extremely fortunate to have been able to, because as a fan, you do the research, you read articles, you watch the show, you kind of have a perspective, right, of like kind of what went
Hmm.
into the making. And we also got really lucky with Talking Sopranos because those Steve Sciarippa and Michael Imperioli, I mean, they literally did a podcast for every single episode in the
Yeah.
movie. So we were able to kind of get back into that world. So I was, able to do a minute version of what those guys were doing, and just being able to kind of talk to the guests and kind of hearing their perspective, working with James Gandolfini. I mean, it was just unbelievable. I mean,
Hmm.
nothing but amazing things that you hear. I mean, I was devastated when I heard that he had passed. Really, really impressed with the work that his son's doing, Michael Gandolfini. He was in the Many Saints of Newark. He also had a little spot on The Offer, Paramount show, which is about the making of The Godfather. So yeah, I mean, it was just a blast to be able to interview those guests, and hopefully we
Hmm.
continue to get more Sopranos guests as well too. And I'm still rooting that we can get a prequel series, following the Many Saints of Newark, and be able to continue to talk to new actors and actresses that are joining the Sopranos universe, and then obviously talking to the legacy characters as well.
Yeah. That's awesome. There's nothing like hearing a story firsthand. Like, you
Yeah,
can
yeah,
watch as many interviews as you want to, but when someone tells you something firsthand, it's not only a memento for yourself, but you got to hear it right from the source. So,
yeah, yeah, and it's just unbelievable too because a lot of the actors and actresses from The Sopranos, I mean, they were in other classic movies. Like you'll see them in like A
mhm,
Bronx Tale or Goodfellas and Casino. So you're able to
yeah.
talk about all these classic films. If you haven't realized it yet, I'm a huge fan of the mob genre. So
Yeah, oh yeah.
anytime I can talk about those types of movies, we've also interviewed probably eight guests or eight actors and actresses from The Irishman. I
Right.
love that movie. I love that film. So being able to talk to folks that did that film. I mean, I'm just again, I'm a fan. I'm just lucky to be in a position to kind of talk about these classic films and sort of their journey behind it.
Yeah.
And I love it. I enjoy every day doing this.
Right on. Let's talk the future because the future looks bright for in-person events and television in general. You know, Hollywood is in this kind of legacy era where it's bringing back all of its original actors and it's bringing back original characters. So, I mean, as a fan of cinema going down the road, who are some people that you would like to see maybe reprise a role or stuff like that in more in your genre of film because I do like a lot of more pop culture superhero flicks and stuff like that. In your world, who do you want to see back?
Yeah, I mean, one of my favorite actors of all time is Joe Pesci. I love Joe
Hmm.
Pesci. He had a phenomenal comeback in The Irishman. I think that was probably one of his best performances that he's ever done. I struggle between trying to, see because a lot of folks will say that his best performance was probably Raging Bull.
Right.
But I think he was because again his role in The Irishman, it was a different type of character that he played. He played Russell Buffalino, who
Hmm.
was more of a laid back, calm boss who kind of operated behind the scenes. You knew that you didn't want to double cross him. So like kind of seeing him in that different role versus being like the jumpy, antsy, always
Yeah,
swearing
yeah.
type of character. So I just seeing that. I mean, he has lost nothing in his acting abilities. So hopefully we can get one more, or even just a few more, just instances of him, kind of playing, something, maybe even something different that he hasn't done yet. Um,
Yeah.
Also, too, I'm excited. I don't know if you've heard about the film Killers of the Flower Moon. It's going to be
No.
directed by Martin Scorsese. It's going to join,
Oh, does it have? Okay, no, no. You go ahead, and then I'll go.
well, it's going to join Leo and Robert De Niro together.
Okay.
And yeah, the cast is awesome in it. I think this is the first time that they're reuniting since This Boy's Life. I think I'm pretty sure. So have you ever seen the movie This Boy's Life? It's with De
Mm.
Niro and Leonardo DiCaprio. It's like early
You can't
'90s.
call me out here because there's a lot that's in my watch list, like so much that's in my watch list that if people didn't know that I haven't seen, I'd get shamed on. But I
Well,
have seen
fun,
The Irishman, I've seen all of the classics, stuff like that. I'm good on that front.
yeah. Well,
But
fun
anyways,
fact: my movie dictionary like slows down at like 99 and beyond. Anything like 70s, 80s, 90s, I feel like I got it nailed.
yeah.
Yeah, and then to be honest, man, I started watching movies like right as a baby.
Mm,
Yeah, I mean that movie I'm really excited about. Just kind of seeing them kind of reunite because De Niro made a joke, right? That Leo kind of took on, because it was De Niro that was always working with Martin Scorsese. I think has done like
mm-hmm.
8 or 9 movies, and then Leo has done just as much, pretty much, right? So I'm excited for this and kind of seeing how this movie turns out. I think it's coming out to the Apple Network. I think,
It's hard to
and
tell these days. Like,
yeah, the Irishman cost I think like 150 million, and then this is supposed to surpass that. It's supposed to be like a $200 million budget. So
oh
I'm
wow.
sure it's going to be great.
So I seen a trailer. I don't know if where I seen it, but it had all of the actors in it, right? I think I seen De Niro was in it, Christian Bale's in it. So do Do you know the one I'm talking about when I tell you? So Christian Bale's in it, Rami Malek is in it.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. I
which
was
one is
actually
that?
just looking at. I'm forgetting the title. It's not Amsterdam, is it?
I'm not sure, but I know that it's a new one that's bringing a bunch of actors together. That's
Yeah,
but yeah,
yeah. The cast is insane in that film. I think it's Amsterdam. I might be misquoting it, but
yeah,
yeah, anything
yeah,
Christian Bale, I'm for it.
yeah, absolutely. And he said that he'd do a Batman movie if Christopher Nolan returned as a director. Stuff.
I saw that.
Yeah,
But here's the question though, right? I mean, you're a movie buff too.
yeah, yeah,
I mean, what would the story be, right? I mean, what would the story be? Like, I think going into it, they had the mindset that they wanted to do a trilogy. I mean, should
yeah,
they just do a standalone for part four?
yeah.
Who would the villain be? Like, what would a good part four entail?
Yeah, I don't know. A lot of people say, well, a lot of people said that bringing the character Hush into play would be interesting. I think that that might be the direction that they're taking. Pattinson's or Pattinson's, whichever way you say it, his they're taking his that direction. But I don't know where they would take Christian Bale's. And honestly, with the crisscross of DC to Marvel that everybody's doing, Christian Bale's in Marvel now. Uh,
Yeah.
it's just it's hard. It's difficult to see people back in different roles. Like I seeing Michael Keaton come back as Batman is going to be interesting. It's tough. But hey, I mean, to get back onto the topic of interviews and doing that sort of thing, I did want to ask from you what some of your goals are down the line interview wise, some people that you want to talk to, some conversations that you really would like to have, stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, as far as goals, I mean, for me, I mean, just the ability to meet and interact with filmmakers is just unbelievable. I'm an
Mm-hmm.
aspiring screenwriter. I mean, this has kind of been like my kind of my dictionary for screenwriting, and I've written some
Oh
projects.
yeah.
Yeah, I can text you the book. It's short, really helps. If you ever have you ever written anything or kind of
Oh yeah, I
dabbled
write all
in
the time.
writing?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, this
Yeah.
kind of helped me with just getting the format down.
Yeah.
So I mean, that would be fun to maybe write a movie one day. That would be one of my dreams. And
Absolutely.
also to as far as dream guests, I mean, getting Joe Pesci would be unbelievable. Getting Eddie Murphy would be unbelievable. I don't think I've ever turned down an interview. Any chance I get to meet with someone that's in the industry to learn about their journey, I'm all for it. I think we're probably creeping around 60 or 70 interviews, so I'd love to
Nice.
get to 100, if not by the end of this year, but probably sometime next year.
Right on. Yeah. Just keep pushing. And one question that popped in my head was, it takes a lot for one person to be able to be in front of a camera, speak in front of a camera, and it takes a lot for one person to be able to speak to another person on a camera. So when abouts did you kind of realize or start to dabble in, you know, I guess public speaking, but not really public speaking? You know what I mean, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, to be honest, I'm pretty shy. I don't really like public speaking. If I can avoid it, I will.
Yeah.
I probably always do. I always look for a way to avoid public speaking. But it's a little bit different. Like the Zoom interviews kind of help break the barrier, right? It's a
Hmm.
little bit easier to kind of have your questions and kind of be a little bit more prepped versus in
Yeah.
person. I think it's harder doing what you do when you're kind of on the ground. That's
Hmm.
something that I would like to do a little bit more of is attend events or even eventually do like a one-off like in-person interview. I think that would be fun because when I watch other podcasts, I don't know if you watch like Michael Francis, a lot of his interviews are in person, and it'd be great to get into that level at some point.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I have a blast doing it. I think the more you do them, the more comfortable you get, and also too just being excited about every interview. Like I feel like guests can realize whether or not you're excited when you're doing an
Hmm.
interview, and also it comes across with the guests that you're interviewing, right? Like if you're into it, they're more engaged as well. So yeah, I mean, it's just a blast, and you know, I hope to continue to hopefully get better and help improve in the craft.
And that's the thing, right? I mean, every time you always, do you do your own editing or do you offload it or?
Yeah, man, I'm a one man shop. I definitely need to learn kind of more of the skills of editing. I might tap into you one day to
Well, I
come.
mean, just practice, 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 really, honestly. But I respect the one man show thing, like, because I've been the same way for years now. Dev Show's been it's 4 years old now, and it's just like kind of learning with every little mistake at a time. You know, something doesn't work here, but you won't make the same mistake next time, but you'll still find another mistake next time. It just won't be the same one, and it's just a whole process for man, and it's like learning to trust it and. Getting to talk to guys like you and my contemporaries and people who are also working really hard. It helps motivate me, it helps inspire me, and that's why I want to do it. And I'm glad that you decided to come on with me.
Do you have a preference? Do you like to do Instagram Live, Zoom, or on the ground? Do you have a preference on which?
Well, I haven't done an Instagram live since about the Outer Banks stuff, which is 2 years now. Um, but I'd say I prefer doing it over Zoom because that way I know that it's my show and it's like produced by me. I always love producing my own content. It feels good. But the most fun is at events when I can get the interviews. That's the most fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've reshared your page, but definitely gonna post for my audience to follow you. Obviously, you have your YouTube channel. You also have the Instagram. Do you have any other platforms that you?
Yeah, man. I mean, I'm on Facebook, Instagram, all of the good stuff. I'm not on TikTok very much right now, but all of the
Yeah,
basic stuff I'm on there, and you as well. I'll link everything up in here, and I really appreciate you joining me, man.
yeah. I know we've been trying to get this going for a little while. I've only done one other podcast before. I don't. I was hoping that I don't know if your audience would think I'm interesting enough, but yeah, definitely honored for you to even consider me being a guest. Hopefully, we can do this again sometime. I might steal you on my podcast in the future too. And just yeah, thank you, man, for bringing me on, man. It was a blast,
Uh,
and
I
excited to see your
appreciate it.
upcoming works,
What's that?
and excited to see your upcoming projects.
Oh, oh, thank you, thank you. I appreciate that.